Welcome, moms, this morning. It's nice to have you all back. Wow, I really missed getting to visit with you these past 2 weeks. Some of us were connected on Marco Polo, so we had a little bit of back and forth during the holidays. But being able to just sit here with all of you and visit, I really missed that. I do want to welcome, we've got somebody back that was with us from the very beginning of this journey. So Jen Turner. Jen, it's nice to see your face. It's nice to have you back. Jen was part of the group from the original, what was it, a Southern California homeschooling group, I think. Jen, is that what it was in the very beginning, that first meeting?
Yeah, and to help moms who are interested in it with COVID changes and everything.
Right, right. So that's how this whole thing got started. Was I was a guest speaker on that conference. And then we've just kind of kept going and evolved from a homeschool conference to this mom mentoring group, which I just love. I was sharing with a friend just yesterday how vital this group has been, to so many of us, and what a blessing it's been to have a place where you can come and you can talk and share and be very genuine and vulnerable, and we have made real friendships in this group, which is just still a surprise to me. I never thought that that was a possibility to do something like that virtually, but it has become a reality, and we have made these wonderful connections. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see where we're going to go today. I did put out there a little something for you to all to think about for this Friday's discussion. So I want to leave some time for that. I just wanted to review, in case you don't remember, it was just this little Happy New Year's post that went into the Teach Our Own group, and I think a couple of different places. I know my own page, and I think in Well Educated Heart. But have any of you had any thoughts about this? Do you want me to, I could kind of review that for you. I think I'll do that. And then you can see if there was anything that you were thinking about that you kind of thought, yeah, I'd like to share something along these lines. So it said, this was at the end of the year, and it said, I hope you enjoy a day of reflecting on the good that came this year. Be open to gratitude and optimism as you think back on 2021. Receive 2022 with cheerfulness and pleasant resolve to enjoy this year. Find ways to add joy to your own life and heart, and you'll naturally become a lovely, content woman. I submit that opening your heart and your life to receive joy will invite that joy and gladness into your heart, your life, and into the lives of those around you. Enjoy today. Reflect. Consider writing down your thoughts, and we will talk next week. So, just wondering if anybody has had any thoughts along those lines. And good morning, Ruby. It's good to see your face. So, any thoughts along this whole transition from last year to this year, Jen?
Yeah, well, it was that post that I just happened to see it, and oh, sorry, not balanced very well. That just inspired me. I'm like, I want to start going again and try it, even though Friday mornings, I don't know how easy it will be, but we'll see. But I just love that post because I love the new year, but I also struggle with it because I love the energy that comes. I get a lot of I get really excited to just revamp everything, but I go overboard, and then I'm never happy. It's never good enough. I'm like, okay, I did this, now I can do this, and I get this determination, which is really helpful for getting things done, because with my energy, my movement level is very low, and so I'm just like a peaceful person, so I don't get a lot of energy and motivation all year round. But at the beginning of the year I do, so I try to take advantage of it and get all these things done, and so I love it for that reason. But then I start beating myself up. I'm like, well, I can't do this then. Well, I didn't get to this, and it's just too much, and then it becomes frustrating. Or I start taking it too much on me and wanting to do everything myself. And so I'm just thinking about the balance. Your post really helped bring me back down to earth and be like, okay, I just need to be happy with what I can do and just be grateful for the things I do get done and not worry and just not put it all on myself, but rely on the Lord and just be more content.
Yeah. And that's not, it seems like a simple-ish thing to do, when you talk about it and say that, but then we do kind of get a little bit carried away sometimes, don't we? It's easy to do that, to let that whole idea of the new year and all of that, we get rolling and get excited, and then sometimes there's even a discouragement that comes into that too. So I really wanted us to think a little bit more and reflect back and look forward and maybe talk a little bit about that. I'm glad that was that was something that inspired you. I'm just super happy to have you back. It's great to see you again and have you be a participant in our group. So welcome back, Jen. Emily, were you going to share something?
I appreciated the reminder to be grateful and to reflect back on the previous year. And something that's been coming up for me over and over again is just that small steps and that one thing better. I think it was in conference, or maybe it was a book I was reading that was like 1% better, be better today than you were yesterday. And it's helped me to remember just to pick one thing to improve, and that's enough. But my process, I have to write down all the big things and make the big list of how my life is going to be completely different this year than it's ever been before. I have to go through that whole process and reflect, and usually it's not till the middle of January that I get solid on what I want to do for that 1% change. And that comes through a lot of lists and a lot of crossing out and prayer and study and some counsel with my husband about what he sees as well. And then I can get it down to just one thing. And every year is a little bit different. Sometimes it's one goal. Sometimes it's just a focus for the year. And I just kind of have to let the Spirit guide. But before I can get to that simplified, I have to go over the mark. And I know I'm that way. So I just give myself time. I don't have to have it on the first.
Yeah. I like that. I love that you kind of do that whole big, maybe something like a brain dump, and get it all out there and then go back through it. I love that you mentioned going over it with your husband, because really, truly, that counseling session can be so helpful for us, because they can see things from their perspective, a little bit wider perspective, and can help us as we're trying to zero in on what we really want our focus to be. And then you also brought in letting the Spirit guide us in those choices. And that is essential, I think, remembering to do that. Okay, anybody else have thoughts? They want to continue this? Other thoughts?
Also,
go ahead.
Yeah, also good to state that sometimes my experience has been that it's a focus for a few months. It'll be something I just need to do for a time. I had some topics for scripture study last year that it didn't take me the whole year to do, but that's what I knew was the most important thing for me to do. And so I did that, and then I was done with my New Year's resolution. It only took me 4 or 5 months, and then I was finished. And I still had that sense of accomplishment, and like Jen was saying, that renewed energy of a new year to help get me started. And my life is really blessed because of it.
I love that. And I love that it doesn't have to be something that's for the whole year, but just maybe something you're focusing on to get started in that year. And then I want to introduce a really crazy concept, and that is that you don't even have to make New Year's resolutions if you don't want to. And that for some people is just like, no, but for me, that's kind of been a helpful thing to know, or to give myself permission to not do New Year's resolutions if that isn't the thing that works for me. Because for me, I'm like Emily in that I make a huge giant list of all the things, but then I never get past that. I never get down to narrowing it down. And so in past years, not the last couple, but before that, I would have a giant list, and it was overwhelming, and it was not even possible to get those things done. And then, the discouragement would come in, right? And so, so for me, it's been giving myself permission to not necessarily have New Year's resolutions. I kind of love the idea that every day is a new day and a new opportunity, and the fact that the year happens to have a different number at the very end doesn't really matter because it's still a new day. And that's hopeful to me. I feel very positive and encouraged with that, because otherwise my personality, if it's the 5th or the 6th or the 7th of the month and I've not done all my goals, then okay, well that year, is, you got to toss that one in the trash, right? I can see Holly is like nodding and smiling. You get that. You understand this, Holly. Yeah, Holly, it's nice to have you with us. Can you give us a little bit of an introduction so we know a little bit about you?
Sure. Yeah, I'm glad to be able to get on here. Hope that's okay. I just jumped in
Yeah.
late. I have 3 girls that are 9, 7, and 5, and we've been homeschooling for a few years now, and I just really love Well-Educated Heart. One of my friends introduced me to it, and I've been going through the intro course and Catch the Vision and all that, and just really enjoyed that. And I've watched you guys a couple times and thought this was a really great group that I'd like to.
You are right about this being a really great group. It is a really great group. I just love them. So it's so nice to have you with us, Holly. Can you remind me where you're from?
I'm from West Jordan, Utah.
Okay.
I'm in Saratoga Springs now.
Oh, okay. I know where that is. Okay, well, wonderful. Welcome. And I'm going to read what Emily just shared with us over here. Miss Stacy, I love Miss Stacy, in Anne of Green Gables says something like, every day is new with no mistakes in it. Live that statement of fresh start with each day. I love that statement of fresh start with each day. Oh, I don't know, Emily. Sorry, I'm butchering your little. But I love that. I love that idea that every day gives us an opportunity to have a new start. I think that is wonderful. Okay, other thoughts about this, and I have some others as well. There was a meditation that was for the new year that I'll share that with you too. But let's continue talking. Linnell.
There's a poem that someone posted on the Facebook group that has been on my mind for a really long time. So I wanted to share it and kind of express what I've been thinking about it. I have it pulled up here, so I'll just read through it. It's by Don Keith. When the sky is blue and the sun is shining and life is sweet and no one's whining. When the computer works and the calls go through and the lights turn green and the car's still new. When the shirts are pressed and the socks are matched and the house is clean and the door was latched. When it's not too hot and it's never too cold and the flowers grow and the junk gets sold. When the grass stays green and always is cut and the neighbors are nice and control their mutt. When stores have no lines and you find what you need and it costs you nothing your children to feed. When the family's healthy and you're all feeling good and you look in the mirror and see what you should. When everyone loves you and thinks that you're smart and you've got lots of money and joy in your heart. When the night is warm and the moon is full and the world's happy and you're in control. When your music plays and no one is screaming, then you're not living, friend, you're dreaming. I was so disappointed when I read that. It was so optimistic. It was like a dream come true. It was wonderful. And then my hopes were crushed because I came down to real life and it's very realistic. So I've been thinking, is this possible? Can we reach this ideal, whatever our own ideal is, but this paints a really beautiful picture. And then you get excited about it because, wow, this is wonderful. And then it's like, oh, sorry, it's not possible. So I've been trying to decide for myself, do I believe in this? Is this possible? Can I reach an ideal? Can I have it all? Or do I need to give up some things? Can I reach for all my goals? Can I shoot high? I don't know. What are your thoughts? What is your experience? But before you share that, what my experience is that I can't have it all, and that's kind of discouraging. because I can't balance everything. I can't take care of my health and my marriage and my kids and my testimony and all of the things. Something is usually falling. And so, is that unrealistic? Can you achieve it?
I love the question. Oh, you're funny, Emily. Emily loves your shirt, Linnell. It is beautiful. I like that one.
Thank you.
I love that question. I love the picture that that poem presents, and I love the question. We're going to go to Lindsay.
Trying to put my thoughts together because I feel like I'm like Linnell, where I want that. Like, you want this, like, everything's perfect. Like, yeah, the yard looks good and all the laundry's caught up and you're all like on top of it. And then at that point, then you can like be creative and like paint something or do, you know, like once you have everything under control, then you can do something better or something. Always have this idea in my mind. But I've been reading that book that Marlene suggested just before Christmas, I think, or just after, If You Want to Write. That has changed my perspective on so many things, including all of these things that we think should be like done, like it should all be done at some point. I started realizing that we're always just kind of in this, like, the middle. We're always in the middle somewhere. We're never like like our work is never complete on this earth until we're gone, right? Like, so we're always like a work in progress. And so there's always going to be things undone. And we need to look at those things as like the beauty of like the work we're doing. So I remember at one point when my babies were little and I had cloth diapers on the line and I had like all these messes and bowls of Cheerios out. And I just remember feeling so full, like I did it. Like, this is perfect. Like, this is the perfect everything, even though it was a mess and like so many things needed to be done. I just felt like I did it. Like, I'm, you know, like, I don't know. And I was talking to Laura Pollock the other day, and she said it was the sweetest moment. And I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this, even though she's not here. Her husband, they were talking about things they were grateful for. And he was like, you know, I'm really grateful for all those holes in our lawn because it just shows me that I have like really active boys who have been outside. So I don't know if any of this is really making sense, but I've like just changed my perspective on like what everything should look like and goals. And I mean, should our goals be that like everything's done? Because then I don't know, I just feel like then you're not living. Exactly. You need to be in the middle. Like, things need to be, and Lori and I talked about this week, the houses, as opposed to like a perfect model home. You walk in someone's house and you can't really tell if anyone lives there. Or do you want to have like stuff all over the fridge? Like, which house do you feel more comfortable in? Like the ones that are obviously lived in and have blankets out, and I don't know. So there's this, like, what are we striving for, I guess, is what I've started asking myself. What was the question I was thinking? Like, I don't know. But that book has really changed, like, where do I put my creative work? Like, what is my creative work? And is it like raising a family? Like, I'm always putting another brushstroke on, and it's going to look like something eventually, but in the middle stages, it just kind of looks weird.
Oh, I love all of that, Lindsay. I think that is beautiful. And I'm loving that book too. We have a smaller group that's reading that book, and it is really good. I put it over there in the comments, If You Want to Write, by Brenda Euland. But I was thinking, Linnell, when you asked the question, and Lindsay, this is what Lindsay was talking about, was this idea of, you know, do you, I don't know what you like to do, but like if you like to put a puzzle together, or you like to read a book, or you enjoy watching a really good movie that you love, how do you feel when that's over? You know, you have that sense of kind of a letdown because you don't really want it to be over yet because you're enjoying the experience so much. And I think if we could learn to have that same type of an attitude about our homes and raising our families and, you know, doing our work, so that the whole process, we're enjoying it. We're somehow being able to have that wider perspective that enables us to see that where we are right now is really good, and that we might be able to enjoy it in a way that, maybe we haven't been. Because that whole thing of, I'm not happy because I'm not caught up on all the things all at once, or I haven't done, made enough progress in all the different categories, but we're not trying to race to the end. I don't think there wouldn't be a lot of joy in that. I loved Emily's comment. Christ's work is never done. The Lord's work continues. And then she's referring to an article that I put in the group, in the Teach Our Own Hearts group on Facebook. The article on work talked about the importance of reporting work. Emily, you're going to have to come on and explain.
Sorry, I am not good with my thumbs. Repeating work, it talks about the importance of that work repeating. And I think as mothers, that's been the hardest thing for me, and I'm still struggling with that. I'm just coming from vacation, so rose-colored glasses, right?
Mhm.
But when I get home and I see everything now, I'm behind, right? And nothing's done, and I'm going to have all this laundry to do and all these things. But I appreciated in the article how it talked about the value of work repeating. And I just have to remember that, because I know it's going to hit me when I walk through the front door.
Yeah, right. You're preparing yourself. I love that. Okay, Melissa, who's, always lurking in the background. I'm kidding. You're not lurking ever. But she's always feeding us all these wonderful things just from the background. I love it, Melissa. And this is one of my favorite quotes of all time. Who else loves this quote that's in the chat? This is something that's familiar with you guys, or familiar to you guys. I love it. Okay, so I'm going to read it, Melissa. I don't want to, this is, you guys will all know this is Sister Hinckley. I don't want to drive up to the pearly gates in a shiny sports car, wearing beautifully tailored clothes, my hair expertly coiffed, and with long, perfectly manicured fingernails. I want to drive up in a station wagon that has mud on the wheels from taking kids to scout camp. I want to be there with a smudge of peanut butter on my shirt from making sandwiches for a sick neighbor's children. I want to be there with a little dirt under my fingernails from helping to weed someone's garden. I want to be there with children's sticky kisses on my cheeks and the tears of a friend on my shoulder. Darn it, I got really close. I want the Lord to know I was really here and that I really lived. I love that quote. There's just so much joy in that, in remembering that it doesn't have to be all perfect and look perfect for us to be completely happy with our lives and content with where we are. I just love that. There's a section in a book that I have, and it's that book that, oh no, I didn't bring my glasses in here. Darn it. It's that book that I love that I was so hesitant to share with everybody, but so far everyone that has got a copy of it and started reading it loves it. So I'm actually going to show it on camera. So it's this book right here. And it is wonderful.
I have that.
You do?
I studied it when I first got married. I made this ideal notebook, and I haven't completed it, but yeah, it was like this study that I undertook when the first year I was married.
I love it, Jen. That is great. It is such a good book. There's so many good things in here, but it was wonderful. It was talking about a few things, and I thought, oh my goodness, these are beautiful. And it actually goes in line with what we're talking about. So I'm just trying to figure out where do I start here? It's talking about how to find happiness in homemaking. Now, this is just a portion of what we're doing, but it might help you get this general idea that I think is important to understand. It says, an essential quality of the domestic goddess, which is what it refers to us as here, is her ability to find joy and satisfaction in her work. Well, that's huge. Just that sentence right there. For us to think about this, okay, how can I better find joy and satisfaction in my work? If we can do that, then my goodness, when the majority of the battle, and we're going to be able to be so much more content in our daily work. This satisfaction comes as a result of her attitude about her work, her control of her life, and her diligence in performing her work. So when Lindsay was talking, I was thinking about, and when Linnell asked that question about that poem, here you paint this beautiful picture. And is this possible? Can I really reach for ideals? Can I hold that picture up as a model? Can I, what did I put here? Can I shoot high was one of Linnell's other questions. And I thought, yes, you can. But it has everything to do with your attitude, your outlook about it all. You can shoot high, you can have these high ideals. You just have to be able to be happy in the moment and in the journey, as well as, at the end of it all. But this, I'm going to continue on, if you don't mind, and share from this. The very first point that it makes is to accept drudgery. If not all of your work seems pleasant, face it honestly. Accept your work as part pleasant and part unpleasant. Some jobs are just not joy producers, at least not for you. If that was something that you just took into your heart and accepted, wouldn't that make your day-to-day easier? Just having that acceptance of that. And it continues on, says some more stuff about that, but it says a certain amount of work is drudgery. You may not find joy in changing babies, cleaning toilets, and scrubbing floors, but you can find happiness in the overall accomplishment. Many of our duties are a source of real enjoyment. And so it talks about that. But then it goes to the next point. I'm going to skip some of these. I mean, there's great information, but I just don't want to read a whole bunch. The second thing is, don't become crowded for time. If you want to enjoy homemaking, now this is huge. Don't become involved in too many activities outside the home. Do you sometimes catch yourself and you realize, okay, well, probably a lot of my problems are stemming from I'm taking on too much. I have unrealistic expectations. The most time consuming are outside employment, assisting your husband in his business. We learn a lot about that from the When Queens Ride By, that story. Or doing masculine jobs around the house, such as yard work, painting, handling money, or bookkeeping. Isn't that interesting that those come up? And we've been having some discussions about that lately. Also, limit your time for clubs, service organizations, self-improvement programs, education classes, or lessons. Although these programs may be a fine thing if you have time for them, don't let them rob you of time to enjoy homemaking. This conversation doesn't ever happen these days. You never hear these kinds of words. But I don't know how you're receiving this, but for me, when I read this again, I thought, oh my goodness, the answers can be so simple. Sometimes it's us. We've cluttered up our lives, and we're maybe part of the biggest problem in keeping us from being able to enjoy our day-to-day life. It continues on and says, activities within the home may crowd you for time, such as talking on the phone. Well, we don't really talk on the phone, but think of all the things that we might spend time doing on our phones, right? Browsing through magazines. So that's swiping on your phone, right? Watching TV, extensive, this was interesting to me too, extensive sewing or canning. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. Can it be extensive? Can I spend too much time on projects like that? And that's an interesting thought for me to have too. These things can be time robbers and can cause you to be in a last-minute rush for the important things. When such is the case, it's difficult to enjoy your work. When anything crowds you for time. So this is a principle right here with whatever it is that we're trying to fit into our lives. When anything crowds you for time, you hurry through your jobs to get them over with, and it's difficult to enjoy them. Have we thought much about trying to enjoy these jobs that we maybe feel a little bit overwhelmed with? So that's kind of an interesting thought as well. And then going on, it says, observe a little girl playing house. She doesn't hurry to get her work done. She puts her doll in a crib, folds the little blankets, tucks them in carefully, and when she is finished, she takes them off and does it all over again. She does the same thing with the little tea set, setting and unsetting the table over and over again. She enjoys her work because she is unaware of time. I doubt if she would enjoy it if she were to watch a clock. I believe our natural instinct is to enjoy domestic work, as little girls do, and being crowded for time robs us of enjoyment. If you're thinking, I don't have time to play house as little girls do, ask yourself, what am I doing that is more important than doing domestic work and enjoying it? Perhaps you're giving important service. Perhaps you're giving important service. That may have to come first for a time. Measure each activity. So everything that you're doing, measure it for its value, always regarding home duties and your enjoyment of them as of major importance. Well, these things are pretty significant points. There's a whole bunch of them all crammed together in this little section, but they're really important. And here's the last one. Go the second mile. To find joy in your work, do it well. The doctrine was taught hundreds of years ago by Jesus when he said, if anyone compel thee to go 1 mile, go with him twain. Going the second mile, or beyond the call of duty, lifts the burden from work and makes it seem easy and enjoyable. Perhaps this is what Jesus meant when he said, my yoke is easy and my burden light. Many women fail to find happiness in homemaking because they go only the first mile. They give only the bare stint of requirement, just enough to get by. They feed and clothe the family and keep the house reasonably clean, but not an ounce more. Their meals are all quick and easy, and then they're off to an outside diversion. Women who give just enough to get by never enjoy homemaking. You have to go the second mile to enjoy anything. So please open that up, make that a broader, all of these comments broader. To enjoy anything, you have to go the second mile. So maybe as we're thinking about our day to day, and I don't mean, this is not a perfection conversation, right? Or you guys don't let yourself go there, because that's not where we're going. That would absolutely, diminish anything that we're talking about. But just this idea of finding ways to enjoy what you're doing, and to enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, and not just be looking at that end goal. Anyway, I don't know if that was helpful for anybody, but it was absolutely helpful for me this week. It was a really kind of I've read it before, I've done it before, but it was coming back to it, and it was kind of an eye-opener for me. Any thoughts, or was that just overwhelming?
Lori,
Mm-hmm.
too, something I have to remind myself of, when you're reading that, is that my second mile to find enjoyment will be different than someone else's. I have an aunt who loves gardening, and her second mile is her garden. And she has an amazing garden, and she grows all kinds of things and stuff. But for me, that's not my second mile. My second mile, I haven't found yet. But I know it's not gardening because I've tried that, because I saw her and I was like, okay, so I'm going to really dig deep into this. And I'm like, I'm not finding joy in that. And so I can find joy in a different part of my work. Even though we're both mothers and we're both raising families, my joy can be found in a different aspect.
Yeah, I love that. I love that reminder. And I think that's what we continue to get here as we watch and learn from each other. We see that we can be successful in our own ways, and it doesn't have to look like somebody else's. I love that, Emily. Thank you. Holly.
Yeah, I really liked that. During the pandemic, I've been simplifying a lot, and we've cut back on so many things we used to be taking away like 3 times a week and stuff. And so we stopped that. I started ordering groceries online, and just that time that just to be home, like we've been home like all the time because we had some concerns for one of our daughters to get the virus and stuff. But anyway, it's been surprising to me how much I could simplify. I know it's not the same for everyone, but being able to do that has helped me enjoy being homemaking more and stuff. And I had another thought about like New Year's resolutions and stuff, and how you're saying the new beginnings can happen like every day. But I had a similar thought when the year started. we had a new ward and new time and everything. And I thought, oh, this is so great. It feels great to have a new beginning. Like I can start over and try harder on things. And then I thought, then the pessimistic side of me is like, well, how many days will this last? Because I've been through it so many times and I just get discouraged really quickly. And if I mess up, I'm just, oh, I might as well give up. But then I thought, well, I can just choose to have a new beginning like every day or even multiple times in a day. I can start over. And that's been so helpful to me. And I think what's helped me start thinking that way more is partly the rotation schedule and how like the idea that you don't have to get it all on the first go around. You can just, because we've been trying to do the rotation schedule, if we don't finish everything we wanted to for a month, then we'll be back the next year. And just that idea of you can have your low points, but then you can keep trying again. That's helped me a lot.
I forgot I was muted. I appreciate that, Holly. Those are great thoughts.
Mhm.
Really good thoughts. Jen.
Maybe part of contentment, part of being content is just accepting that it's kind of like we go in waves. So we keep trying for that ideal, like in the poem, but we know we're not going to get there all the time. We might have moments where we feel like we are there for a little bit, but just knowing that it's going to ebb and flow and knowing that and like being ready for that, but not giving up on it, like still going for it. But then I think that's partly what keeps us humble and relying on God, is that we try so hard and then we don't do it. We can't do it. We realize we can't do it. So that's what keeps our heart broken and our spirit contrite. So we're like, okay, well, I tried my best and I know I can't. I need you. I need help.
Yeah.
But then we're renewed again and we are trying for it again and we do a little better, and that's like the cycle of improvement.
Yeah, I love that, Jen. And I think that's the key, really, is because you brought in that point that's so important, and that is that we can't do it alone. And I think he provides us with that very necessary for us, that ebb and flow, as you said, the high points and the low points. And what we need to do is learn to show ourselves grace, and accept those high points, maybe celebrate the high points, accept the low points, reach out to him, through it all, so that we are, I don't know, like understanding what it is that we're getting out of the moment. Either we're doing great and we feel good about it, or we're struggling, but we're reaching out to him and we're growing. I think there's good in all the moments. And I think that's where the value is in looking back, reflecting on, the week before, the day before, that current day, the year before, whatever it is that you're doing, but reflecting back and finding the good moments and being grateful for those things, finding the not so good moments, having your thoughts about those. I think there's a lot of value in that. It's just that we've been trained more to just be discouraged about those things that didn't go so right and have more of the negative thoughts. But there's so much good that can come from that reflection, and inserting God into that equation is so important. Go ahead, Jen. You want to just share more?
Yeah, I also had a thought about what you read from the book about going the second mile. Like my first thought is like, no, then I have to do more. But
Yeah.
then my other thought goes with, I've been listening to the Life Giving Home on audiobook, and
Yeah.
just it's kind of more of a shift of perspective, like going the second mile, like just trying to do a little thing to make it more beautiful. Like before I would just be like, no, I'm just going to do the minimum, just to get it done. But I think for me, going the second mile is like, okay, I bought the candles that were on sale at Costco when I wouldn't have before, because I'd be like, well, that's not necessary. But now it's like, I can have the candles on at night, and it just it just makes people smile, and it makes us a little more happy. So then it makes me want to do more stuff like that, or makes me want to do better because of I've done it in a better way that's more beautiful, that people actually appreciate, instead of just doing it to get by.
Yeah, right. Instead of it just being a checklist where, okay, I've just got to get these things done, you make it something that you actually receive some enjoyment out of. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel, I don't know, more successful and happier. I always use the example of a movie that maybe is a little silly, but the movie Overboard. Um, and but I love in that movie when Goldie Hawn, she's tricked into believing that she's the mother to this crazy family of all boys, and they live out in this, ramshackle house, and it's just a mess. And she goes in, and because of who she, like her natural tendencies inside, she made it beautiful. And it was the simplest of homes and a situation that, one could feel very discouraged about, but she made it lovely by putting these little, soft, feminine, heartwarming kinds of things. And I've always loved that picture of that. Just, it's made me feel like, okay, you can do this wherever you are, whatever your circumstances are. And I don't know. That's the picture I get when you're talking about that, Jen. But I loved your recommendation too, The Life-Giving Home by Sally Clarkson. That's a lovely book. And I was just listening to a podcast last night, and it was a mom who had written a book about, and so I went to her page, but it was all about creating a home that is warm and inviting for you and for your family, not just for others, but then extending out from there, a place where you can bring others into your home and they can feel the warmth and the goodness there. But I think that's going to make us feel better. There's going to be a bit of joy in that. It's like we had talked before about, the simple things, like maybe just adding some candles at dinner time occasionally with our family or something, just doing these little things that make you feel like you're adding something, when you put on music in the background and you notice that your family is kind of changed by that. You have now done something to change the environment of your home. When you're having a better day and you're responding more positively and you're having some better moments, it's nice to feel that. It's nice to feel like I actually added something to my home, because I think so many times we look back at the end of the day and we just see the things where we took away. We're so harsh on ourselves. And we see those moments. So I think it's kind of nice to find somewhere we've added something. Okay, I'm talking too much, so turning it back to you, ladies.
I appreciate the comments that were shared about the poem. And it's got me thinking. I have a few more thoughts and follow-up questions as I've been listening to your thoughts. So I have two images in my mind. One is that I'm climbing Mount Everest, trying to get to the top. So my goals are at the top, and it all depends on me. I have to climb, I have to get up there, and we've heard of that before. But then as I've lived and experienced and comments about the ebb and flow of life, it makes me feel like, well, some things I just can't control, and I just need to learn to be content and take them as they come. And then that makes me think of the ocean and the waves that come in and out and in and out. They're constant, they're ever flowing. Sometimes they're high seas and sometimes they're calm. So then I'm wondering, am I this mountain climber that needs to get to the top of Mount Everest, and my goals are at the top and I can get there if I just keep pushing on and eventually that ideal will be reached? Or am I like in a boat on the middle of the sea, and sometimes it's high seas and sometimes it's low, and I come and go, and I just have to learn to not get seasick? And I don't know if there's a perfect answer, but this kind of helps me in forming my goals, because as I think of goals, I'm like, should I shoot for something totally unachievable just because it gets me closer to the top of the mountain? Or should I just be fine? Like, should I make a list? And maybe I'm thinking too much about this, but this is how I think. So if you have comments about nature and about these two images, and what's the truth that we're looking for? Is it that we just need to accept things as they come, or it all depends on us and we need to work toward it and eventually we'll get there?
I had a thought. It made me think with all like how we have night and day every day. It's like the sunshiny part, like happy and stuff, and then there's night where we sleep. And I just, with the example of the ocean and nature and stuff, like, I wonder how that could fit into. But I have similar questions because I'm starting to wonder, is it more like that I want to get somewhere, or is it that it be that like how many times can you fall down and still get back up? Is that like the bigger success or something? It's not like if you can make it all the way to the top, or is it how many times after you fall down can you still get back up and still have similar motivation? I don't know.
Jen, are you able to read that post? That's really good. Or would you rather have somebody read it?
Yeah, I can read it. I wasn't able to paste the whole thing, but
Yeah, no worries.
This is what I've been thinking of ever since, let's see, Lynette? Sorry, I don't have it on my
Linnell.
screen.
Yeah,
Linnell.
Linnell.
Sorry, posted or read the poem. I've been thinking of this post. If I can get back to it here. Okay, so Marlene said, I was thinking about how frustrating it can be to have an unrealized ideal for your home. You love your kids and want them to be happy, but sometimes they are so darned uncooperative. Your dreams of a beautiful, peaceful home environment are shattered by noise and messiness and kids with minds of their own. I often worry that I'm adding to the guilt because I put this ideal home out there that for many of us is really quite unattainable. But as I was thinking about that, something else I read from the Oceans book came to mind. Even when the waters are at their stillest, they are always being drawn steadily towards Earth's center. A perfectly level ocean would mean each portion of its surface being equally distant from that center. The ocean ever strives after this ideal, but never attains to it. Yet, century after century, that aim is pursued, with a perseverance which might afford a lesson to ourselves. And most of us have noticed a cup filled with water, that the water surface is not perfectly flat. Close to the sides of the cup may be noticed a distinct rise. It is the same in a tumbler, in a basin, in a slender glass tube. For the sides of the cup or tumbler or tube attract the water, drawing it upward, and this is known as capillary attraction. With the ocean, the very same thing is seen. If high land borders on deep water, the extra attraction of mountain masses will act just as the sides of a cup or tumbler will act. They draw upward the water of the ocean to a higher level. So maybe the answer is to allow these higher ideals to lift you higher and constantly draw you without feeling like you are a failure if you haven't achieved the perfect outcome. The more I learn, the more I understand there is really no arrival moment in God's plan. He plans on lifting us higher and higher and higher. Will that pull ever end? Only if we let go and stop trying.
That is so good, Jen. I'm glad you remembered that. I remembered that post too. I loved that because it really made me feel so good, so optimistic about life. Now that's easier for me because I don't have little people running around right now. You know, for me, I'm just missing that time period. For most of you, you're living in it with some of the frustrations that brings. But that's so beautiful. So Jen, do you have more thoughts you wanted to share about that quote?
I've just been keeping it in mind, and it's been encouraging to me just to not give up, to keep those ideals. And then it ties back to what Emily said too, because I did a list for my New Year's resolutions. Like I was just getting so frustrated and like, well, I want to do, but I don't know which one to focus on, but I need to do this and this and this, you know? And so I went up and wrote it all down. And I think something I've been missing is what Emily said, to go back through that and then get more of a focus, like a one thing focus from that. But also I like to keep that and keep striving for all those things because of that quote. Like, well, that lifts me higher. If I gave up and just didn't try for any of it, then I wouldn't do nearly as well. So
Yeah, I like that. You know, for me, the way I approach life has changed some, and I don't know, not that it's so great or anything, but the idea of having, like, I have a giant list of things that I want to accomplish and do, and things that are important to me, that I just kind of have as a constant, and I can add things to it, and I can take things off if maybe somehow I've actually accomplished, you know, something on that list. But but the thing that has helped me is turning my life over as much as I can. I keep pulling back on this, but turning it over to God as much as possible, you know, and every morning just saying, okay, here's what I'd like to do today. This is what I think seems like is important, but what would you have me do today? What are the things I need to focus on? And on those, the days that that I'm doing that, listening and actually remember what it was that he asked me to focus on. Oh my goodness, those days go great. And at the end of the day, I can look back and think, okay, I did well today. I did what I was supposed to do today. It didn't go the way I maybe wanted it to go, but I know that I did what I was supposed to do. So I think that idea of partnering with God in this journey is really important because it allows you to feel good when you have done what you could have done, you know, for that day, or maybe like should have done for that day. It helps you to know there are some actual like markers to say, yes, I did that. And I think that helps for us. But I love this idea of there's no arrival moment in God's plan. We're growing, we're learning, and we're growing every day. Do you look at your kids, at little children, and think, at the end of a day, well, you really didn't accomplish much. You know, you really didn't do what you should have done for today. Or you just look at the things they did and say, that was great. What a great day. You know, I think we ought to look at ourselves a little bit more like that and look at our day and think, oh, wow, that was pretty good. We did some things that were great, and we can feel good about those things. I do think it's good to look back on your day with different eyes, with kind eyes filled with grace, and look at the things that you did well. There's a, I'll bring that up again, but there's a meditation that I think is so good. And it is for the end of the day to look back and reflect and see the things that went well, and live in that moment, and realize what you did and that it was good, and express gratitude for that. Really acknowledge those moments. And then to acknowledge the ones that didn't go so well, and maybe make some plans for tomorrow to try to attempt it again, and, you know, do it a little bit better, but all with grace, all with a sense of optimism and hopefulness, because that discouragement comes from a different source, and we don't want to go there. That's not helpful. It's not going to help us grow. It's not going to help us learn. And then in the morning, this idea of we are children of God, so we are creators, and we can create our day. And that idea of, you know, taking a few moments to create our day spiritually before we get started in it physically, and being able to partner with God in saying, you know, what should I do today? Well, what can today look like? And then move forward in that. I think that's really helpful. I do think that's a good thing. And I want to just go back and, you know, remind you of that. I think that's really a sweet idea. And on that app that I recommend, that Small Seed Still app, that's where you can get some meditations for free. There's one right now that is about the new year. And it's so positive. It is, I really, I highly recommend it. I think it's a good experience to take a few moments and meditate. If you look at meditation as a preparation for prayer, maybe that makes it a little bit more accessible if it's not been accessible to you before. But this meditation for the new year does a reflection, reflecting back on the year and the experiences that brought you joy and that brought you gratitude. Well, you can do this every evening. Look back on that day. What are the experiences that brought me joy, that brought me gratitude? What are the things that helped me grow? And so that kind of indicates maybe some of the rougher things, right? Can I reach really deep down and find some gratitude for those things that were harder, the things that helped me grow? And then looking forward to the next day, to the next whatever period of time you want to look at, but what will bring me joy? What does that look like? What am I doing? And what does it look like, and who am I with? And kind of picture that. What are the things that are going to help me to grow? And same thing, what does that look like? Who am I with? Really picturing that. And how can I include God in those desires? How can God support me in these efforts to find joy and to grow? And the suggestion is there, which I love because it's kind of the perfect next step. You might want to ask God if there's anything more that you can add to this visualization, something that He would want you to do. As a child of God, you're a creator. As you believe that you can do these things, with God's help, they can become a reality. I think if we have that kind of an idea, a picture in our heads, that we can be more hopeful as we look forward. We can be much more forgiving of ourselves. We can be more allowing. I will not forget, Melissa, you're sharing with us that definition of the word in Hebrew that we have translated as long suffering, that the actual meaning is more closely long allowing. I think we need to be that way with ourselves as well. Emily, I'm going to read Emily's quote, and then we'll turn the time over to Linnell. I loved your pictures in your mind about your goals in life. They are, Linnell, this is to Linnell, me too. They are giving me so much more to think about. First came to mind that Mount Everest is not the first summit attempted by a mountaineer. Neither does the mountaineer reach the summit alone or all at once. Many people help, plan, supply, support, carry some gear. There are several camps along the way and partial trips to get acclimated. Yeah, so that's a good way to think about that picture, that idea. I like that, Emily. Okay, any other thoughts before we turn it to Linnell? And I'm sorry, I kind of hijacked a little bit with this little part. Okay, so we're going to go on to Linnell for our summary of today's discussion. Thank you for being here with us. This has been nice. It's been really good to get back together again and to have some new faces and voices. Got to say goodbye to husband properly first.
Thanks. I appreciated the discussion. Thanks for your thoughts and for helping me as I formulate my own ideas about making goals. And I have a quote that I want to share to wrap up our discussion. But before that, I wanted to return and report about a previous discussion we had about bedtime, because I think it's really important to reflect on the progress we've made. Mm-hmm. And this is something that I've been working on for a really long time, to change the feeling of bedtime in my home, because it used to be really crazy and contentious and just rushed. And I learned about an ideal and I wanted to get there. So this discussion about making goals goes along with that experience that I had, because I was reaching for something that seemed unattainable. It was really high up there and I was failing every single time, and that was discouraging to me. But I kept trying, and a lot of people helped me along the way, and I tried different strategies and I didn't give up. And so more recently, it's been so much more peaceful and calm. And I feel like I am approaching that ideal. Maybe I'm not there. And the thing about this ebb and flow is that sometimes I feel like it, and sometimes we fall out of the habit. And I have to accept that that's okay. But right now, I think we're at a really good place where I'm not screaming at the kids to get to bed, where I'm not feeling so frustrated by the time I fall into bed, where I save up some energy for them. We read a book, we read some scriptures, we say a prayer, and it feels better. And I feel better about myself and about the experience that I'm creating for them. And so that is thanks to the encouragement here and learning about those ideals and then just working towards them. The quote that I want to read to wrap up our discussion today came from my personal study this past week. It's a talk by Russell M. Nelson from 1987, so a long time ago, and it's called Lessons from Eve. He says, "Sisters, be patient. I know something of the pressures you feel. Your kitchens are too small. Your budgets are too tight. Demands upon you exceed your capacity to help all who cry out to you. Through it all, improve the shining moments. Don't let them pass you by. Take time for spiritual regeneration." I'll share a few lines that have sustained Sister Nelson through the years. They also reflect her sense of priority. "Cleaning and scrubbing can wait till tomorrow. For babies grow up, we've learned to our sorrow. So quiet down cobwebs, dust, go to sleep. I'm rocking my baby, and babies don't keep." I'm glad Sister Nelson has not tried to be a super mom, but she has been a soothing mom. This she has done simply by being herself. When priorities are in place, one can more patiently tolerate unfinished business. When I read that, I felt so encouraged. I felt so validated and understood that at least Russell M. Nelson understands that I'm trying, that I'm here, that I'm giving my best effort. And I know that each of you here today is doing the same. We can just be ourselves. We can make sure our priorities in place. And if we do that, and one more, we can improve the shining moments without letting them pass by. That keeps it really simple. It allows us to focus, okay, where are my priorities? Am I being myself? And am I improving the shining moments? And if we do that with patience, then I think we'll be all right. And I think we'll get to our destination, wherever that should be.
Beautiful. Thanks, Linnell. Thanks so much for that lovely summary and for the report back. That's a great thing to hear about our successes and to be able to acknowledge those. Thanks, everybody. I hope you'll be back next Friday. It's wonderful to have that opportunity to be together and share. If you are interested, don't forget, we mentioned in the group on Facebook that we are reading and going to discuss the article called Family Work. It's a BYU speech. If you're not in the Facebook group of this particular Mothers of Influence group and you want to be, just message me on Facebook, and we just have to become friends, and then I can invite you to the group, and then you are in the group, and then you'll get those little messages. So if you want to do that, you're welcome to do that, and if you don't want to, that's completely fine. But anyway, thank you so much for being here, and we get Buzz Lightyear as a parting picture. That is awesome. I love the costume or outfit. It's good to see your face too, Abby. It's good to see all of you. Thanks again for being here. Have a fabulous weekend. If any of you want to stay just for a moment afterwards, I was just going to share with you this lovely little gem. So I'll do that after we end here, but we'll see you all next week. you.